It's safe to say it is theatre. This has been the rivalry of perhaps the last decade in the Premier League. The last 8 seasons, it's been one of these two that's won the trophy. So it's either been a top-of-the-table clash or a title decider, and we get to see the latest episode on Sunday.
We do, and it's been a fixture that Liverpool have had the better of City in recent seasons. That said, I feel City going into this one as the team. I actually think they'll feel good going into this. I probably fancy them in this one. But it's going to be a cracker, and for both of them, there's a lot riding on it, because at this point, if Arsenal get a win, whoever doesn't get the result at the weekend, they're going to drift quite a bit away from that top spot, and that's going to be really tough, I think, to claw back with the form that Arsenal have.
It is a milestone game for Pep Guardiola, 1,000th in management, and we saw that earlier today. So Alex Ferguson, wrote a statement congratulating him on the milestone. It's huge.
It's incredible, really, and I think you look at especially the Barcelona years and the City years, and you're right, one is defined by his rivalry with Real Madrid and Jose Mourinho especially, and the other one with Liverpool, first with Klopp and a little bit with Slot now. And I don't know how much longer we will have Pep managing a club team, certainly not here in the Premier League, so let's enjoy him a bit more. Remember Arsene Wenger's 1,000, that didn't go well at all away at Chelsea. So those are the games where everybody will remember, so you want them to go well, especially when it's a massive clash like this.
This country, what a game we have in store. It is one, as you mentioned, that Liverpool have had the advantage, but are City back to their best now, do you think?
I think City look very strong, and I almost think they weren't really talked about so much, from the off. And I think that maybe just helped Pep do the groundwork and settle the team in. Yes, he's had to be a little more dynamic in how he sort of sets his team up. And I think that even deserves huge credit. Obviously, last season didn't go to plan, but they found a way to sort of get themselves to finish in a relatively good spot. I think they've had to go and bring in some different players. They've had the misfortune of some of those missed out with injury. But I think now we're starting to see even the likes of Shirky come into his own, and a few more of those players that maybe when they arrived, sort of that stress of playing for Man City and the expectation, I think now we're starting to see them show their talent and skill. And I think he's starting to get them to come out their shell. And I think the one question mark I have is Haaland has obviously been the one player that has been so dominant in front of goal, and that's amazing when you have him. But I think there are certainly a right for fans to start saying, can we get a few more goals from the rest of the players in that final third?
He's been foreign. No wonder he did the robot celebration. he's a machine. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, incredible.
Crazy. The first season was amazing, obviously, when he arrived from Dortmund. And then after that, the last two were good, but certainly not at that level. And you did wonder, can he go back to those incredible numbers that he had in his first year? And the answer is yes, this year. Again, to do it in a team in transition a bit, because there's all those new players like Shirky, like Nouri, like Reinders, that you are integrating in your system and in your structure. And yet, for him, it's incredible what he's doing with it. And I even think that at times, they not use him as much as they should. There are games in the Premier League this season where he had 1 shot in 90 minutes, 2 shots in 90 minutes. And in that kind of form, you would want him to have the ball a lot. And that doesn't mean every shot will be a goal, but more than one in a whole 90 minutes. And yet there's still, I think, times where they could find him better or more, and he would be even more efficient.
Yeah, just looking at that numbers there, 98 goals since his Premier League debut. Mo Salah is behind him on 70. We know that record, fastest to 100, it's inevitable because he's got 17 games grace on Alan Shearer. We think it's a matter of if not.
He's going to smash.
It's a matter of when, not if, right?
Yes. Which even is just incredible. Almost when I heard that was where he was at, it kind of caught me off guard. I think he's only been here a minute, but he's just a relentless goal scorer. I remember when he did join the league, there was a lot of people really weren't sure how it would work. And he's been incredible to watch. And even I heard him speaking, actually, he was talking about offsides. He's only been offside 18 times since he's been here in the Premier League.
Wow.
And he's another person under Pep who's obsessive about the stats and making sure he keeps breaking records, and he's going to continue to do that.
Yeah, hasn't been offside this season yet. He also has only scored once against Liverpool. It was his 50th goal in the Premier League, though. So question is whether that other record is going to come again against Liverpool. But let's talk about the Reds, the reigning champions, because they've won back-to-back now. Is the slump over for you? Are they back to their best? Is it two teams that are on form that we're going to see at the Etihad?
And maybe the most important for Liverpool is that they didn't concede again. So no goals conceded against Villa, no against Real Madrid. Against the Real Madrid team, for example, in great form with Kylian Mbappe, certainly firing. So after all the goals that you see there, 3 against Brentford, 2 against United, it was almost a 2 per game for some of those games there. And to have managed to get more balance in your team, certainly with Szoboszlai, Gravenberch and McAllister starting again now, no Wirtz anymore, that has helped. Maybe Robertson and Bradley being back instead of Kerkez especially, and Frimpong now with his injury is a big thing as well. But it's just not to concede those 2 games in a row would have done them a lot of good, really, because that was also the problem. Yeah, with the ball you could do better, and yet they are gifted some goals there by how Villa were poor in that build-up phase. But it's more how solid they were defensively in that game and in the Real Madrid game with the intensity, the pressing that I think would please Arne Slot the most.
Yeah, Gravenberch back and on the score sheet as well. You mentioned impressive defensively, but also pointed out that midfield and that midfield trio kind of reverted back to what we know and what's been a little bit more familiar, and it's working.
It is, and I don't know if, understandably, Slot had his ideas, and I think he was in some ways a little bit stubborn. He stuck with those. He kept, he tried various different players at right back. I think, obviously, Kerkez, wonderful player, was incredible at Bournemouth. There's no doubt he will be a success at Liverpool, I think. But things weren't going well for him. There was a lot of sort of people jumping on the back of that. I think it's just reverting to something that's solid and steady, I think, counts for a lot, because you've got top players in that team, but you've got to make sure the core is solid. And I think even with Robertson at left back, I think Van Dijk is much more comfortable with that, especially when there's a lot of scrutiny, especially when they're conceding more goals than ever. So he's reverted to what seems sensible, and I think that is going to reap some rewards.
Yeah, we've mentioned the midfield. Well, here is Arne Slot talking about one of those midfielders, Dominic Szoboszlai. Let's listen.
I think he's been outstanding throughout the whole season. But these 2 games brought even more out of the team and out of him. For me, I like his work without the ball. Every single game, and in the last 2 games, that was probably even above his own standards.
Do you know when the games are over, Szoboszlai used to just be flat on the ground?
Yeah,
That's how much he just gives everything.
Yeah, I looked at the stat before coming. He's run 15 kilometers more than any other Liverpool player.
Wow.
He's a machine physically, which we know is that's nothing new here. But you see how quickly he goes from in transition there, from the defensive side of it, and it was him blocking the shot, to being there and involved in the attacking side of it. He's an incredible player. I understand why Wirtz was signed, because he's probably better against low blocks than Szoboszlai is, and in a way, it's probably a bit of an upgrade as a proper 10. But Szoboszlai is so important for this team, especially for me in the pressing phase and the intensity that he can trigger for the rest of the team. That Wirtz is not there yet, and again, they're different players too.
The Premier League title race is heating up once again as Manchester City and Liverpool refuse to let Arsenal run away at the top. Pep Guardiola's side showed their trademark dominance with another clinical display, while Arne Slot's Liverpool continue to prove that their new era is built on resilience and attacking flair. Both managers spoke passionately after the weekend's results, Guardiola praising his team's control and hunger, while Slot highlighted the mentality of his players and their determination to keep pushing until the very end. The message from both camps was clear: the chase is on, and no one's backing down. Arsenal's lead may still stand, but the pressure is building fast. City look like a well-oiled machine finding their peak form just in time, and Liverpool's energy under Slot has reignited the fierce rivalry at the top. Every fixture now feels like a final, with fans and pundits alike sensing another classic 3-way title battle in the making. As Guardiola and Slot continue to trade results and words, one thing is certain: this season's Premier League race could go all the way to the wire.